Welcome to the May 5th meeting of the Finance Committee. And I'll turn it over to Board of Selectmen.
Good evening.
We open? We're open.
You know, well, just bring the meeting to order.
Go ahead, Len.
Okay. I'd like to welcome members of the Board of Selectmen in joining with FinCom. At this time, entertain a motion.
Need a motion, we just opened the meeting, but we have to acknowledge that we're,
Yes.
Chairman Chico's present.
You're present. Chairman Hull is present. Thank you.
And as the Finance Committee is called to order, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, we do have two members of the FinCom on Zoom, so they just have to identify themselves that they are actually on Zoom and participating remotely.
This is Catherine Fournier, participating remotely.
And this is Robert Rendon. I am also participating remotely.
Thank you.
All right. Just quick housekeeping before we get into the, Nancy, is anyone else coming from assessors? No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. In regards to the opening of the meeting, FinCom committee is a Zoom meeting ID number 813-4100-3008, pass 442. The Zoom link and login information remain the same for each meeting. 1-929-205-60.
And with that, grab Nancy's cheat sheet. And we are going to 141. Nancy, anytime you're ready. Nancy, can you come up for the microphone?
I know that by now.
All right, so as you can see, there's been a reduction in the post amount. Are there any specific lines you want to talk about in looking at it? I've got a printed copy. It's difficult to read. It's so small. So I'm sure you're. While you're looking at it, you know there's been a change in personnel, that the full-time appointed and elected assessor, Mrs. Beauregard, retired. There was a period of time when she kind of helped us fill in things that we needed to get filed with the Department of Revenue, but we have since hired a full-time appointed assessor, and we have a new elected member of the Board of Assessors. So you see salary changes there? So that's part of that. The change in the full-time position.
Was that the principal assessor, the change to the 81-180?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
One of the things that we've been requesting over the last few years, Nancy was one of the people requesting it, was that the assessor's salary was included with the stipend for the elected position.
Okay.
And this year it's broken out. We'd asked for it to be broken out. This year it's broken out. The change in professional and technical needs, is that just to, because we've got the new line for interim valuation?
We're looking at 5,300?
5,300, yeah.
Yeah, there's been changes there because the other thing I should mention, when Mrs. Beauregard comes in, basically called in, there are certain forms that only turn up once, twice a year when she comes in. So she is being paid to do that, I'll call it sporadic work, separate from being an elected official. So anyhow, when we look at all of the things across the board, the other thing too is professional and technical. I think, from my notes, if, at the, you'll remember, there was an article for $8,000, which got defeated. And then we asked you to give us an $8,000 transfer, which you did. My understanding is when we put this together, because there were 2 fiscal years and the reason why we had separate articles instead of putting it in the budget, $4,000 was put in here, all right? We're going to need $4,000, okay? In this budget, because we budgeted 4. Is that what your understanding is?
Right now, in line item 5302, there is currently $4,000 proposed to be budgeted. So the past few months, we've been operating under actually the wrong assumption that we'd be able to use the $8,000 appropriated from the reserve fund to fund the revaluation. We're not able to use the whole thing. So if I could recommend through this process that the valuation amount that is currently proposed in the amount of $4,000 actually be increased to the full $8,000 because we don't have the ability to use the other funding as we thought we probably might have.
8,000 is basically 4,000 every 6 months?
Yes, because the work actually takes place over 2 fiscal years.
Yeah.
So the gentleman that does this work has already started working. Property taxed if it's on the roll as of January the 1st. So we got past January, all the tax bills went out, and that was fine. Since then, there have been other properties that have changed hands, come on board, whatever. So he starts working on that because technically he works on a calendar year basis, but we're dealing with fiscal years, okay? Had this been voted as special article, we could have carried over like we've done in the past so that we would have the money because we'd spend the first 4 and hold it the other 4. But because it's now in here, and I had checked with the town accountant, because at the Board of Assessors meeting yesterday, the question was, do we have enough money to do it? And I says, we got the transfer, but I'm not sure when you transfer into a budget, we can encumber that money. And that's what I asked her to look into, because, I mean, it's not like a budget transfer within the budget, which, as you know, happens after May the 1st if it's necessary, or before the books close. And this isn't something we could do. So the $8,000 that you transferred, I expect we're going to spend $4,000 of that by June 30th, which means we still need $1,000 to work on the next. And he will wrap up that work so that January 1st, we will have a complete listing of who should be on there, okay?
It really is, every 6 months, it's $4,000. So the 8 that got moved out of the reserve back in whatever month that was, December, 4 of it'll end up coming back to free cash.
I think it's unfortunate that the article didn't pass, because we talked about this yesterday at the assessors meeting. When it was a special article, we had that flexibility, because it was an article, so you could pay this fiscal year's $4,000 and the next, beginning of the next fiscal year. All right, not a problem. The special article, as you know, you determine where the source of funding is. Maybe it was going to be free cash. But once it was not approved, now we're putting a budget together. That's part of the budget. That's raise and appropriate. That's not free cash. So that was something else we talked about, the importance of really looking at, if it's a special article, why do you do it? We all know now why we did it, or they did it way back when, and we were continuing the practice. But the other thing too is, if the FinCom says, hey, we'll fund this out of free cash, it doesn't affect the tax, the levy limit. The minute you say raise and appropriate, it's in the tax rate, okay? And that's all history now. But as I said, we did have this discussion, and I don't want to stir the pot again, but in all honesty, I'm wondering if we should go with a special article and take that out of there.
I personally prefer that it's a line in the budget, just like the audit, anything
Okay.
that's an annual
Okay.
expense. And yeah, I mean, preliminary, I would say, yeah, I would rather bump it to the 8 that's needed and what's right.
One thing for
right going-
sure, it's in the budget,
Yeah,
Right.
so the whole budget gets approved.
not to change the subject.
Yeah,
Wireless communication appraisal, is that what that is? 5303?
Yes.
Know what that is?
My understanding from my discussions with the principal assessor is that there is actually a law and a regulation that's been changed that actually as you know, year to date, only 25% of that budget has been expended. But my understanding from the principal assessor is that due to the change in law or the regulation, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a change that would require us, so that actually increases the town's responsibility to do that. And I believe that was a responsibility that up until now had been performed by the Department of Revenue. That is no longer being performed by the Department of Revenue, and we still have that obligation.
Do you know when that,
periodically we get notices that basically say, this is your responsibility now because we're not doing it anymore. Obviously, everything we do is controlled by the Department of Revenue, and it's the only department in town that literally, almost on a daily basis, we're dealing with the Department of Revenue, all right? And I know that, I don't have the memo with me, I know that emails came out to us, because when Mrs. Beauregard was at our meeting yesterday, because we had some other issues, older stuff we had to take care of, and she was on the board at the time, and we were talking about some of the new requirements, and that was part of the discussion we had about, with Mrs. Schechter, who is our full-time assessor now. What do you see ahead of you? And Mrs. Beauregard, what do you know that's coming that she may not be aware of? There was the discussion about the new requirements from the Department of Revenue. I can't itemize them for you. I don't have the email with me. But as I said, a lot of things change.
just where for the last 2 years it's been 2,000? Is that something you can take another look at and see if
Certainly.
we can grab
Yes.
some of that 4 out of that?
Yeah, when is your next meeting? You got to,
Tuesday.
all right, yep. I'll have a breakdown for you.
Any other questions on 141?
Nope.
Oh, we're making the adjustment to 8 on that line?
5302,
More than likely.
okay, we're gonna find out a little bit more information. about that other thing.
Robert, anything?
No, nothing for me.
Have any questions on any of that?
You definitely going to take money out of this, 6,000?
I'd like to, yeah. I'd like to take some of that and use that to pay for a good chunk of that extra 4.
Like on that too, like, so and as you mentioned, we cannot confirm the dollar amount that's needed, but I just did receive a message from the principal appraiser. And Alec, and she did confirm that we as a town now have the responsibility of doing the appraisals on the wireless utilities rather than the state.
Okay.
So is that cell phone towers? I mean, just to clarify.
There's a big statewide settlement, it's this many pages. We had this at the meeting yesterday. Obviously, we didn't read the whole thing. Verizon sued everybody in the state. There was a settlement, and we have been sent information about what their valuation is. I think, for example, if I said Verizon in this town, everything, the wires, the poles, whatever, everything was valued at $4 million. As a result of the lawsuit, which the valuation came in, approved at $3 million, okay?
Okay.
And they didn't list all of the amount of tax that would be available. In other words, you went from 4 to 3. All it did was list all the communities and what the new valuation was. We had been warned about this last November. This lawsuit was out there. And we were also concerned, because at the meeting we were at when it was announced, other utilities may do it. And Eversource was mentioned, but National Grid wasn't. And I said, so what about National Grid? Because the majority of people in our town have National Grid, and obviously they'd have equipment in this town. And at the time, he said, it doesn't look like National Grid is going to follow suit, and no pun intended. But expect something from Eversource, because that's who now supplies natural gas. All right. Don't know for sure if anything's coming through about Eversource, but we definitely got the stuff on Verizon. So that appraisal thing, and considering the fact that they won the lawsuit and got quite a reduction, 25% reduction in valuation. So yeah, that's part of it.
Questions? Nancy?
Okay, so I'll get that additional information on 5303. And are we going to increase 5302 by 4,000?
I would like to. From our recommendation, I would say I would like to.
Well,
See.
again, we can decide this next time, but we got to do it.
We gotta see what's on that other line.
Yes.
Evaluation, the wireless evaluation. Sorry, Robert.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, what happened? Oh, Jesus. All right, there we go. Bob, are you there?
I'm here. I would think we want this coming in as the departmental request being modified to $8,000, not leave this at 4,000 and then have our recommendation be 8. I think it needs to come from the department.
So we are scheduled to meet in 2 weeks, but I can talk to the chairman and get something scheduled, a special meeting, because we should vote to ask you to do this. Actually vote to put in the request, send it to the town administrator, board of selectmen, and then send it on to you. But I don't see any options.
I mean,
Yeah, no, if the assessors would be able to have a special meeting, that would be
yeah.
helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Next on the agenda, 179 Agricultural Commission. Jim, just so I don't waste your time, what department are you here for?
I'm here for a reserve fund transfer,
Okay,
but I do have to inspect the generator, Bristol Aggie, after dark.
after dark, so don't rush.
I'm not in a rush.
Okay,
But if I get a message, if you don't mind, I'll let.
okay.
Gonna move the screen down. So the agricultural commission, a lot of their expenses are really just, over this year and going forward are just really beginning. The Briggs Garden, the planting in the garden just actually began, I believe, over this past weekend. So this is why, even if you look historically, there hasn't been a whole ton of spending. So I understand the reason, for the proposed increase, is still going into FY23 is because, things with the garden now are more up and running. So there were real expenses. There are real expenses now that are being planned for and anticipated. So that was the rationale that was provided by the ACOM.
Do we know what the additional professional and technical would be for?
The you see my recommendation that's actually lower than the selectmen's, and that is because Dr. DeGraffis, when he was on the board, he actually brought forward the ACOM recommendation in a meeting, and I didn't have that information in writing, so that was why, So he was able to provide that information to the board, where I didn't have that in advance. And to be honest with you, I can't essentially remember what it was, but it did relate. It did relate to everything with the garden. Actually coming online now. So I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer, but I had the same question, and in the original request.
Okay. Even like communications, what, is that outgoing communications to the public about the gardens themselves?
That, to be honest with you, I don't know. I can find out and we can have that answer for Tuesday if that's okay.
Sure. Just because I'm trying to understand what would be professional and technical in it. Could that be like seeds, things like that?
Yes, I would say yes, because it's come out of the replacement of equipment.
Yeah.
So I would view professional materials, so that type of, so we'll get that information.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions on agricultural?
What now?
I'm out of the loop here. Well, who's gonna use these gardens?
Should I explain that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Something about it a little bit. That's gonna be for the food bank, so it's not really a community garden that you can't go there and pick kale or whatever you want, tomatoes. It's for the food bank.
For the food bank.
And it's for Lincoln Village, so it's to assist that. So this past Sunday, a few of us, many of us, the Boy Scouts, filled the beds and they planted some of the plants. I think some of this is for tools, not because they don't have any tools. Everybody bought their own tools, but they have a shed over there now that BP just came up. And I think the money that the Agricultural Commission already spent was for the boards for the raised beds. And we had an Eagle project for the two that are ADA compliant, that are 30 inches high. So I think, they need to purchase seeds, but more than that, they need tools. so that when the kids go there to work in those gardens, they'll have a tool.
Is-
I don't know the breakdown of this. I've just been appointed as the liaison for the agricultural
Okay.
commission. I haven't been sworn in yet. I haven't seen paperwork, haven't gone to a meeting, so I'm not sure exactly. Liaison person before, so he would be more familiar with it.
Okay, yeah, if you could just be curious as to, what,
Sure, I
Is-
think we need that.
Right.
That's where we've got a tight budget.
Is it gonna be tended by community groups? Is that gonna be part of the,
The Boy Scouts really are the ones that are gonna be responsible. They did the bulk of the work.
okay,
is it part of one Scouts Eagle project, or?
This is, the Sky Angel project was for the raised beds that are ADA compliant.
Yeah.
The other work, the maintenance of the raised beds, 10 raised beds over there, is by the Boy Scouts. So those-
That's just regular community work project that they're doing?
Yeah,
Okay,
volunteer, obviously.
Good.
It's gonna keep and stuff, but it really is a good project. I know we got some questions about the money here, which I would also have, but hopefully we'll have an answer next Tuesday for you.
all right. You know where they are?
yes,
Okay.
thank you. I've seen them going up, I wasn't sure of the program.
Yeah. Robert, Catherine?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just interested to hear what the extra spend is for.
Go to trails, which is 174. There's more maps.
I get, is an explanation on this over in the notes.
Okay.
It includes, the funding includes a new trailhead kiosk at Hot Street, Broad Cove, and, an ongoing trail maintenance.
How long is the trail?
There are a number of trails. There's a trail system, I believe, within Broad Cove. There's a whole Broad Cove trail system. There's a trail. There is a sweet snow trail system, which a lot of it is owned by the state. And the Department of Conservation and Recreation, as you know. But then there's a portion in the north and the south of the Sweet Snow Trail system that is on, so that the Trails Committee works on as well. So there are a number of trail systems. There's also the potential for additional trail systems. Some in the area, up off of Audrey Lane, up off of Pine and Brook Streets as well. The Trails Committee is a very active and hardworking group. And they're always exploring, new and different types of opportunities.
You said some sections of this was owned by the state.
Yes, a Sweet Snow.
Do they also contribute some funding for this, for either maintenance or the trail maps?
For the Sweet Snow, they do everything, fund everything on their own. And they're actually separate aside from our trails group. They're actually funding a feasibility study to improve their portion, to be followed with construction funding to improve and upgrade the DCR portion as well in the next few years.
Thank you.
And that trail is 2 miles. From Alice's, back behind Alice's, all the way to Sandpiper.
Dave, on any of that?
No, I just heard him mention the trail system up off Audrey Lane. I'm just curious, is that proposed or is that,
That is being worked out. That hasn't been finalized yet. That is just an area they're exploring.
is that road still on the map? I mean,
No, it's a paper road.
yeah.
Chairman, we did research on letters, so it's not even a paper road per se.
Okay.
Robert or Catherine?
I'm all set.
Yeah, nothing for me.
Can I regress for a moment?
You sure can.
So the last budget we were talking about previous, I probably should have brought it up, but if we find out that the Agriculture Commission, that line is being used for seeds or what have you, should we consider to make it a supplies line instead of a professional and technical?
Probably. yes.
That'd be more transparent for people?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I guess that's, I request if it is that, then let's put it under what it,
Materials.
yeah, yeah, I think that might be better. Thank you, sorry about that.
I'll move on to 189 for Development and Industrial Commission. Yes,
I respectfully request on of that committee. I don't believe there's a representative that I would like to speak.
One behind me.
Oh, he is here.
And Higgins. So our original request had been for $1,500, which the selectmen and town administrator had requested to be reduced to $1,000, which is what we're now requesting as well. And it's really for communication. It's for printing and 2 surveys that we're planning. One to the business community, one to the residents. Both of those are being done under the guidance of Serpide, for which we received a grant from the state and a grant from Serpide, which we're working through for an updated economic development plan for the town. And then a small portion of the 1,000 would be for more incidental things like business cards. Myself and at least one other member of the committee go to the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce. One of our members is on the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce, so we actually did get some in-kind donation and got him some business cards. But for the other 2 of us, we'd like to be able to hand out business cards when we do go there for networking. But the bulk of it would be for the those 2 surveys that are being planned for sometime in July through probably November timeframe.
can I ask who or how many members are on the committee?
Voting members, we have 7.
We have 6, we have 1 vacancy
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
We have 5 voting members, 1 vacancy, and then Mr. Mullen and Mr. Are the liaison to the committee.
Okay, so 5 or 6 members of the community and then the liaisons?
Correct, actually, the one of them, the member of the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce, is not a Dayton resident, but he's there as representative of the chamber, and he is a voting member. He's a resident, yes.
Okay. And so you'll be mailing out the surveys?
Primarily, we're going to be doing it as much as possible online, social media, email lists, but we're expecting that to some extent, there's going to be some paper involved to catch, those that we can't catch otherwise. We'll also be handing out paper surveys at a networking event that's being planned for the fall timeframe up at Bristol Aggie for business networking. So we'll probably be handing out some paper surveys at that. We may also try to get some out during the Firecracker Festival, getting out some paper surveys as people come up to the booths and that sort of thing, or at least giving them information about what's going on. So, but as much as possible, we are going to try to keep those surveys on social media so there's no cost.
Okay. So my assumption from the resident standpoint, types of businesses that residents want in the town, and then from a business standpoint, what type of things the town could offer to incentivize.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to have a conversation with the town about level of development, types of development, places for development, and then with the businesses, what are the things we can do to that make Dayton an attractive place for investment.
The non-liaison members, how long have you guys been together?
The commission was established, I forget how many years ago, but then it lapsed for I think 2 years, and it was just reestablished last year. So we had no funding. There was not a line item last year, and in fact, anything that we did have this year was because we were under the Board of Selectmen. So this would be the first year that we're back on the books as our separate line item. But, so this would be the first year of the reconstituted.
The current members have been around since the reconstitution?
Some have, some are brand new.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would be the same thing, you know, we've got the other lines there, maybe just move the budget items to where they would best suit, if it's communications, if it's business cards, rather than putting everything on professional and technical, I would just say as much as possible, let's try to get it to the lines that it represents the closest.
Yeah.
That's all, but I don't have any other questions other than that.
Robert or Catherine?
None for me.
Nothing for me either.
Veteran Services 543. How are you?
Good.
So, Ray, I don't think you've had the chance to come before FinCom yet, have you?
No.
So, so my apologies. So Ray Haig is our new veterans agent. He's been with us since last July. June, I'm sorry. It's been a quick year. But he does a job well done.
Welcome, Ray.
Thank you.
Since it's almost a full year, I feel I can ask this question, and you'll have some knowledge on it. Time-wise, overtime, is that something you're seeing a need for, or?
Well, that's built in. What I requested when I took the position is the reduction in hours. Historically, you had more hours for the position, and I thought, so far, pretty correct. But I believe the selectmen, and I agreed, and the town administrator thought that if we did run into a spike and I needed to be available more at a certain time of the year or whatever, that's what that was there for. And I also, as long as that line item is there, I do not know if the person clerical in our office that I split with the building commissioner, if it gets very, I don't know if we'd ever, need anything in that area. So that's why I believe it's there.
Is that the office, is the person you're talking about, the office manager listed on here, the part-time 14 hours? It's
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So this represents half her salary and the other half's carried?
But with the building commissioner.
Okay.
Should 21 with you, Jim, or?
Yeah, it's not a 50-50.
Okay.
But it's close.
Okay, thank you.
Like 18 or 19 before?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, the FY22 budget represented, so there was a decrease in our cost due to a decrease in hours, that we made that change when Ray actually came on last year based on the caseload.
Yeah, it was 6 hours. It went from 18 to 12.
Yes.
Okay.
It's been, going pretty good, so.
The increase in the memorial and civics functions, is that something you have planned or?
Yeah, we asked for that. We changed the description of the line item to include civic. We have a veterans breakfast in November. We had one just before November 11th. It was very successful, very, very well attended. And other things we're doing, we'll be having the Memorial Day celebration here, and we have different things we like to do, and that gives us an opportunity, because the way the budget was written, there was no opportunity to take any funds from any other line item if we were doing that. And, to come in for a transfer and appropriation for a small amount wouldn't, make sense, I don't think.
I have a question. When you have
Go ahead, Kevin.
5770 on veterans benefits. I know sometimes we talk year to year about how many, veterans we're aiding at this time, and from year to year, sometimes it changes. Has that stayed about the same as the previous year, or?
Historically, I don't know the history back, but I do know that right now we have 5.
Yep.
And I've been able to trace at one time, it was probably close 12 to 15, and I don't know if there was ever more than that.
Yeah.
Such a liquid account on that one, because you don't know how many people's gonna show up, and at this point, we may be at a low at 5.
Right.
And we just came out of Afghanistan, so we have a lot of people leaving the Guards now. And of course, we're in a recession maybe, and
They may need the benefit.
so, but historically, from my time being a VSO, when we get into this type of financial situation, we seem to have a few more. The other thing the state did is they've gone from a $3,000 burial to a $5,000 burial, where we would have to pay $4,000 of a $5,000, and you don't know how many are going to show up in there.
Right.
And that line item is 75% reimbursed from the state.
Okay.
So any monies we spend there, it's 75% reimbursed.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the number was going up or down, if you had any new requests or anybody you think is coming online.
Oh, I mean, it's well-funded right now, and, as you can see, over the last couple of budget years, it hasn't all been used, but it's a turn back, and, must go right into free cash.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other questions on? Robert or Catherine?
No.
Nothing
No.
here.
One question, sorry. You said some of the funding is reimbursed by the state. Does that
Yes.
reimbursement come right back to your account?
No, it's on cherry sheet. See it on a cherry sheet, it comes back. Actually, the way it works, for $1 we spend this month, you'll get it back from the state in 1 year, almost to the date on your transfer. But it will show up, I don't know if you already have the cherry sheet or not, but it will show up on a cherry sheet as revenue.
Right here. It shows up here.
Oh, okay, state revenue benefit.
Yeah.
Okay. Comes in like regular revenue.
Yeah, quarterly,
Thank you.
okay?
So year payment terms, so that's good, good term.
Yeah, there's
Got 'em.
always somebody trying to get it updated like they did for the school buildings.
Yeah.
To clear the slate. Nobody's ever able to get it, because that would be a nice influx to everybody, but they still keep it a year behind.
Welcome, Reagan, thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for supporting the veterans with this budget. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Cable committee is 698.
So this budget is supposed to be level funded, Mr. Chairman. Just the revenue to fund this account, as you know, comes from the dedicated cable fund. So this budget in the cable operation is actually like they're like over-sustained by the license agreement that we have with Comcast.
We don't actually pay this.
Good.
Any questions on any of this?
Not paying for it. I'd probably say no.
Yeah. No questions, we'll move over to moderator, which is 114. 114.
I'm scrolling on the wrong arrow. I apologize. Can you give me a spreadsheet? Am I looking right at it? Oh my God. No, yeah, take over.
Oh gosh,
I
I
know.
can't see that far. What did you do?
I don't. Yeah, just move whatever you need to move.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, but it's a view at the bottom. It's a zoom on the bottom and for the, I know, maybe not. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop now.
No, it's okay. I'm on view.
No, you're on insert. Over one more. Yeah, nope. Down. Down, down, down. A little more. Right there. Yeah, it's on 150, so it's.
Okay.
Oh, go in the upper. The dots, yep.
Okay.
There we go. Zoom's at 33%. Up. There we go.
Jeez.
There you go.
Don't give me nice things.
Takes a team.
14.
Moderator.
That was a struggle.
Yes. So the department request was a level, and got the question on the 2% again as we go through it, but I don't have any questions on it.
Me either.
I don't either.
No, I don't.
Right.
Fire chief is on as well.
I'm gonna jump ahead to the finance committee, which is 131. Should be level. No changes. For the new members, the Mass Municipal Association does offer classes specifically for finance committees.
Okay.
And I want to say it's in the fall, Nance. Classes from MMA for finance committee, typically in the fall. I remember it was cold.
Yeah, and they also have a,
I'm gonna guess it's probably sitting in the mailbox across the way, but,
well, they've been saying about email. I
okay.
don't know if you're on the list or not, but there's some of the training that's free, and something a little special, there may be a registration fee, but usually your dues cover most of it. And I would assume during the past couple of years, it's all been online.
Yeah. So there are classes specifically for this committee, and
Okay.
if there is travel, you can get reimbursed for your travel, and if there is a cost for the class, it can come out of the
Does
budget.
somebody notify us if it's available, like coming up to it?
So your probably best bet is to
I'm just
go
gonna
on to
go
their website and probably sign up for,
When I get home, I'll look to see if I have the latest MMA newsletter, because they used to mail them out. That's where they list the events and things like that.
Okay, I'll go on the site and check it out.
But, some emails I've gotten.
yeah.
Yes.
And DOR. I hope that's okay.
Appreciate it.
If it doesn't,
Thank you.
So one of the things we can do also, the MMA does have member representatives too, like, and we can make sure that each member of the FinCom is plugged in to get their updates as well. So like,
Okay.
when that happens.
Thank you.
You know what the annual dues are? Just,
The what?
you know what the annual dues are?
We pay them as a town.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you look back in 20 and 21, there was $180 spent. That was probably somebody went to a class.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Yes, sir.
Nope.
Okay, move on to, actually, I'll hold the reserve because the chief's here. Not that I don't want you to get comfortable, but. We'll move on to Fire Department 220.
Things I just want to preface here is the fact that we have, I've been bargaining with the fire union on a successor contract. We are optimistic that we'll be able to provide some updates in terms of an updated budget, hopefully next week. And the chief can do a better job speaking to the rest of it tonight.
There's much to speak, there's not much adjustment in it, except for my dues and subscriptions, which is just an increase in my my yearly annual dues to the Chiefs Association. And some new subscriptions that we have for software and things along those lines.
They charge you based on town size?
Yes.
Chris, if you wouldn't mind, just because the speaker's up here.
I apologize, I don't have a copy of it. It's in my cruiser, which is dead at the highway garage, so.
First question I've got for you is always, for the one salary line that is increasing for the billing administrative assistants.
That's just for the CBA.
Okay, my question, how are collections? How is billing?
Billing's going,
More of an ambulance, I guess, question.
like the revenues.
Yeah.
We're catching up. We were behind because of COVID, but all the payers seem to be catching up. So I believe Accountant Vining, the last we looked, we were pretty on track to be where we expected to be by the end of the fiscal year.
Aging wise?
Yes, aging, we still need to address, but that was part of your,
The Department of Revenue is coming in on June 8th, and they're gonna make some helpful recommendations to address those
Okay.
things.
right. It's still a process that needs to be defined on how it's going to be done.
Okay.
So the first year's payment on the engine The truck hasn't even hit the assembly line yet, as you can probably understand with everything that's going on. So I actually expect a call from them next week to see where the truck is in the process as far as when they're gonna start construction on it. So the second year's payment won't be asked for this year.
Once they start construction, how long does it take?
They said 3 to 4 months. So we may, if, it was supposed to start this month, and with a delivery date of approximately sometime in July. I'm thinking now sometime in August or September, but I'll know better next week, hopefully.
Okay. Part-time qualifier, is that part of the negotiations too? Just where there's it's just a zero?
No, that is not part of it.
It's not part, okay.
But typically, well, historically, in the past, I've given the same percentage increase to the call wages as what I give, is what the full-time department gets.
Okay.
That's how I've done it historically.
So then the same question that I have always every year for the police chief, I'll ask you too, where we've got through 9 months, 54% of that line. Is that something that's the majority spent in this last quarter, or?
As far as call wages?
Yeah.
I don't know where I sit exactly right now. It's a hard number to play with because the number of calls isn't, I can't predict what the calls are. I would assume that yes, it will be, it's down there now.
So is that line more based on calls or based on staffing?
A little bit of both.
People call out and.
Right. And it's hard because you can say we did this number of calls last year and 12 people responded on average, but that average could go up and down as the year goes on or whatever, you know, it's really a hard number to come up with and be solid.
Okay. From a supply standpoint, you know, we talk about the problem getting equipment. Are you finding it hard to get replacement equipment or supplies, or?
I have probably $30,000 a gear right now that I have on order that I haven't received. So I'm expecting those before the end of the fiscal year. Now, part of that is part of a special article that we had done 3 years ago to get a second set of gear for all personnel. So that was a 3-year process. So we're not buying everybody a set of gear in 1 year and then the 10-year NFPA requirement expires and we're replacing all that gear at the same time. So this will be the final year of that special article. So that's approximately, there's just over $25,000 left in that special article, and then the rest of it will come from my budget. But yes, everything is delayed. I ordered that gear in November, and I still have not received it. So it's a huge issue right now, especially with stuff like that. The gear, because now it has a shelf life, they won't build it and put it on the shelf anymore. So we just have to wait until it's actually made.
What is your normal replacement time?
Or
right at the 10 years?
I try to do it a year before or 2 years before, so that way nobody's in expired gear.
Okay.
Because then it's on us as a liability.
Questions on 220?
I just, line 5132 on the holiday pay. Looks like you went a little over this year. Is what we're budgeting going to be enough for?
5132 is the overtime line. We're well over the overtime lines, both of them right now.
Right, okay, I'm sorry, yes, all right, yeah.
So, yeah, I think from a budget standpoint, we'll be fine, yes.
Okay, overtime and holiday, yeah.
There was some retirements that we incurred.
Right.
The payout wasn't as much as we thought it was going to be, that will be able to be utilized to offset that.
Okay.
So overtime was due to,
Retirements
Okay.
and waiting to fill positions and stuff like that.
how many retirements did you have?
2.
Thank you.
That was expected, one was not.
Another 2 in for another 2 budgeted for next year?
One budgeted for next year, but it's a person has more time to pay out than the others did.
Auditor Catherine?
I'm good.
No comments from me.
About 220, 231 ambulance. It's gonna mostly be the same from a
Much the same.
salary standpoint.
Yeah.
This is coming up, is it the third year on the ambulance?
In-house billing,
Yeah.
3rd year, 4th year, I'm sorry, 4th year.
All right, Chief, how many on the staff now for the ambulance crew? How many people?
So when you have 9 full-time personnel, there's approximately 31 call personnel right now.
Okay.
Well, if you, ambulance personnel, probably 16 with call, everything.
Kevin? Sue? Anything else? Robert, Catherine?
Nope.
All set.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, I think I have emergency prep too, right?
Yep,
You do. What number are we?
299.
I think it was pretty much level funded. We split two account lines,
Communications.
but it didn't change the number. It's just a matter of where the money is based on what we were expending it towards.
Yep.
Communications is the same, that public awareness type.
Yeah, mailings, things like that.
Questions on?
No.
Just one. You're asking for, looks like fiscal 23, 2,500 for dues and subscriptions.
Yeah, that's, it was 4,500 between the two lines. We split them up because the 2,500 goes towards the code red, which is the emergency alerting system we have in town.
Okay.
So it just made more sense to have it in something that was a dues and subscriptions line.
Thank you.
Robert or Catherine?
More a housekeeping thing then.
Yes.
Nothing
Nope.
from me.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Been through ours, we'll go through the reserve account, 132.
Just so you would know, Mr. Chairman, I believe I mentioned this to you before, but when we made, well, I made the data entry, I mean, this is a, so this is technically a FinCom department. And when we put the number in there as a placeholder until the department requests, like we inadvertently use the available fund number rather than the appropriation number.
Yeah.
So there is a discrepancy there that does have to get rectified.
So this is an account that is set up, it's funded with an amount that basically, if something comes up during the course of the year, we can vote to shift the money out.
Okay.
In the December meeting, we shifted $8,000 out of the reserve account to fund the Board of Assessors' professional fees.
Okay.
So this budget for last year was $50,000.
That'll be the same this year.
Coming into tonight, we've only used 8. We do have a request for another 6. It's kind of an insurance account is really what it is. But if something pops up between litigation, mainly I would say litigation. If we need more money for legal fees, something like that, that we have the ability to move that over without having to call a special town meeting to free cash.
Okay.
Is there a limit to the amount we can take out of that without coming before the town?
The whatever the dollar amount is in the account.
Okay.
So is it normally funded at like 50, or is this a fluctuating number from year to year then?
I believe it's been 50.
We always try to,
Yeah.
depending on how we've,
I left.
Probably about when it went to.
Just for some of the new members, we have gone to this account for, same as I'll be for you tonight, for which is demolition of structures.
Yep.
And we've had overages. We have had to change an HVAC unit out of this account one year, but it was an unexpected loss. So there are a few things that we have gone to this account for. So in an emergency, as the chairman said. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably when we raised it from 35 to 50 was because we had a couple of buildings coming down and we needed the money in the account. Right, speaking out of, is that a good explanation? Other.
I think the explanation's fine. I personally think, how long we've been at 50,000 now? At least 5 years, right? I'm thinking with the way that costs have gone up, that we really should look at increasing this probably up the 60,000 range. And at the end of the day, if it's not used, it just gets returned to free cash. And then we fund it again the next year.
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
The question to that. Are we anticipating,
Is trying to figure out a way to ask. Conceivably, could you see something on the horizon that might dip into an extra funds in that account?
It's hard to really predict and to project legal issues. There are just right now, this is public information. The planning board has two appeals before it. And with a $15,000 professional and technical budget, there is, I mean, we expect the bulk of those appeals in the process, to not to commence immediately. So, I mean, it will be likely that, there may be those processes ongoing in the next fiscal year. And based on the amount of, of discovery and other things, like $15,000 in a planning board budget for that, there are a lot of times that it's not used. But when we need to use it, especially for legal issues, that does go fairly quick. So, there are some things out there, but it's impossible to predict. I mean, I also view the reserve fund as an insurance policy, because, there are things out there that any minute, something could go the wrong way. And we as a community do need to address, so, yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I suppose, we could definitely make a note of it, and as we go through the budget process, kind of let's see, where we are, and let that help dictate what we feel that number can be at, or what we're able to put toward it. I think it's a reasonable, recommendation, but again, we haven't really got into the nuts and bolts. Have we seen the special articles? Know how much that's value is yet?
Yeah, tonight.
Yeah, okay, so I think, take it under advisement, put it there, and then let's just see how the money rolls out, see how the budget looks. But I would be on board with that to increase it, providing the dollars are there.
Entertain earmarking any excess from free cash. Excess from reserve right to stabilization rather than it comes, how it is.
Yeah. We do that? So Nancy, as I understand, if after tonight, if we had 34,000 in the account, Selectman Hull's asking if we would entertain at the end of the year, moving 34 into one of the stabilization capital or normal.
That has to be voted, it's a 2/3 vote.
Yeah, that was the question.
To put it, it would require a town meeting vote, not a vote of.
He's asking if, since we could move it for, tonight we're going to vote on the extra demolition funds, could we vote on moving the remaining balance in the account into stabilization?
No, it takes a 2/3 town meeting vote. So it would close out to free cash. And if you're going to recommend that some money be transferred from free cash to stabilization, and let's say
Yes, we'd entertain it.
Mark it right off the top of free cash. We get the free cash certification and we know that amount based on the turn back goes immediately into.
Yeah.
We're starting at that number.
well, it's the starting point.
Yeah.
It's the starting point for free cash.
Right.
And that gets added to the.
A lot of times. seen over the last month. It goes into creating a budget.
So I think Robin's having trouble hearing you, Lenny. Would you be able to speak to the microphone? Sorry.
There is a great deal of deliberation and thought that goes into developing these budgets for the course of a year. Then you get to town meeting, subject to partisan interest. And you have free cash that the spending of which is done in an hour or even less, and is often influenced by partisan politics. There is a need for the town to be frugal and conservative and to continue to plan and have a process. And anytime that we have surplus such as this, especially we've had a history of not spending it, just to throw it out to the market to spend whatever that group shows up that night really wants to spend it on, is troubling. We know, Mr. Rendon knows quite clearly, because he serves on the capital outlay account, the projects that are out there, and they're in the millions. So having a little bit put away for those times is really important. Thank you.
From a personal standpoint or personal opinion, as opposed to the finance committee opinion, I wouldn't have an issue with that portion of free cash going into capital stabilization, regular stabilization, OPEB, at special town in the fall. That I'd be okay with that personally.
Right.
Thank you.
I mean, so you're like, one of the things that I think, like all of us over the next 6 to 8 months a year will be working on our financial policies as well, that really help to define that and set the expectation. Of free cash, how much really, so if we have a free cash certification of 300,000 or like $3.8 million, and we won't have the ladder. So we'll have a rule, that.
So much percentage.
Yeah, like 25% off the top goes into regular stabilization, 25 into capital. And that's, I think if you look, I think if you look at the last special town meeting, that's what we try to do anyways. Right off the top, we funded 200 in to stabilization, 200 in to capital stabilization, additional 90 into OPEB, but enshrining really those practices into policy to help us really have those expectations and to set that expectation so our residents know about it as well. I think it rises all boats at that point.
Right, yeah, right off the bat, it was roughly a third of free cash into the three accounts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely, that's
Good way to
the
do it.
responsibility and the expectations of townspeople knowing.
Yep.
Nancy?
I'm going to give you some history. When we were really scraping by back in, and some of you may have been on the board, the finance committee, 2009, 2010. You got to remember now, this is when we were paying the extra $1 million through the DR assessment that was wrong.
Well, I got corrected.
We had a terrible time. The Board of Selectmen determines, the chairman, the board, what goes on the warrant. If Chief McDonald were here right now, he'd say, oh, I remember this. I was chairman of the board at that time. He wanted a cruiser, because we had planned, if we had money, we would replace a cruiser a year. So he said, for the annual, am I going to get my cruiser? I said, don't even ask. We are so tight. You got to go into that town meeting with a balanced budget. Wait for the fall when we have free cash. He came back again. Can I put my cruiser on? I said, no. don't have the money. We had also sent out several notices to the department heads and everybody. Don't ask for anything beyond town meeting, and we'll let you know if there's any money. But we are so tight against the levy limit, and everybody knows, there isn't a prayer we're getting an override, and we wouldn't even ask for it, and we never have. Lo and behold, we go to the special, we didn't get the cruiser, and there were other things that were denied. Tom Ferry had a vacancy in his department that he wanted to fill, and it had been going on and on. We said, Tommy, there's no money. Lo and we got a request to transfer, we got a request from the regional school district to allow them to increase their budget by like $24,000 to buy textbooks. And I said, where's the money coming from? We got the money. Increase the budget for, just buy the books. Increase the budget. Because the theory is when you increase the budget, they keep 5% of the previous year's budget. So it was a way to get the budget increased. And I realized 5% of that amount of money is not a lot of money. But again, I was still chairman. And I said to the superintendent at the time, I'm not calling a special town meeting to have the people vote to increase your budget. You've got the money, buy the books. And this at all. Well, what I found out was, the 1 minute before June 30th midnight, they had excess money in their E&D account, and they transferred approximately $400,000 into special accounts, one for Dayton and one for Rehoboth, proportionately split according to our payment schedule. Then I found out they had lied, so the fiscal year ended and the new one began. So there's these two special accounts holding that money, which should have been given back to the towns. But it was in the special accounts earmarked for us and Rehoboth. Found out that some of the money set aside for Rehoboth was used for educational purposes. And so evidently was, well, it's going to be for special whatevers. But whatever the whatevers were, they weren't listed. They refunded the rest of the money that was in the earmarked account for Rehoboth in July. Now it's December. So she came to Dayton and was going to explain this whole thing. And she kept, I said to her, I thought, you need another shovel in the other hand to keep digging. I said, no, we're not doing it. She says, if you don't call that special town meeting in 45 days of the request, it automatically happens. And I said to her, I don't care what the law says, I'm telling you, we're not calling a special town meeting. Furthermore, I have an itemized list of the money you're holding that's earmarked for Dayton. I want to know what it's for. Oh, well, the books, we don't have a problem with textbooks. Special ed transportation, don't have a problem. It ended up that when I got the data, put together a letter, subtracted the books and the special ed stuff and all that, there was over $80,000 still sitting there, which was a fortune to this town. So we went to the town meeting, the DR school committee meeting, and I said, you can have them, I've written a multi-page letter, you can have money for this, this, and this. We want $80,000. That'll still leave $7,000 in that slush fund that you can spend on Dayton. We want $80,000 because we need it, we're desperate. The school committee voted 9-1. We got the money, came back to the chief, they're gonna reduce the regional assessment by 79,063. I said, that's close enough to 80,000. Out of that money, bought the cruiser, and Tommy hired his person, which was now we're into the spring, but he got the person he needed for the rest of that year, and we budgeted money for the following fiscal year. And there were a couple of small things. So thank you. Control what goes on the warrant, and unless it's brought by petition, you can refuse to put it on there. So if you want to talk about fiscal planning, get the word out that you are not going to accept articles for, if you're truly serious and you say, we got to do this, you control that warrant unless it's a petition article. Do it, but it happened. And we used to get cruises from the power plant. And the vehicle would say, a gift of Dayton Power. I said to Bob, this one ought to be a gift from Dayton Rehoboth.
We don't have any minutes, so speaking of warrant articles.
So, we just actually sent the proposed warrant articles, it's sort of town council, so there are a few things on there where we need to give him a first look first, or them a first look first, but, we do have a list of the proposed warrant articles that have been based on, and these are the funding articles with the requested dollar amounts that have been based on the capital outlay prioritization list and in the CPC requests that also came forward, that because they're financial related, we included them on this spreadsheet as well. I will just make it aside, like in a context. There are a few either ors that will have the ability to discuss and review. Those either ors, they do all go into the bottom line, so that the bottom line is artificially high right now based on that. But as we mentioned, right now from our October free cash certification, we have $434,000. Of that $424,000, we propose to fund a one-time retirement benefits with the 109 of that to absorb the impact on the levy as well. So based on that model, we do have $296,000 in available free cash to make these decisions. There are a few of the priorities on here that have another funding source, a separate funding source that is not either raise or appropriate or fund from free cash, and those have already been identified, Mr. Chairman. That out too, so you can see the whole thing at once.
Street sweeper.
So I'm sorry, I actually had, this spreadsheet was updated earlier today. I did have proposed recommendations in here as well. Number one, to fund the street sweeper and the dump truck with plow sander and accessories for $170,000. So the street sweeper, I'm sorry, you asking a question?
That was when we were originally going through, and I don't remember which budget it was, whether it was street cleaning or.
stormwater budget. So that was initially funded in that budget.
And now it's special.
Yeah, so in FY '22, and going into '23, we're proposing that be a one article. This is the last year of that payment, so that'll drop off.
Okay.
Talking about the sweeper?
Yes,
What was that, only a 3-year?
I believe a 3-year.
Oh, I thought it was 5. Okay, I didn't realize it was a 3-year. 50? Seems cheap.
150,000.
Yeah. I just bought one for 275, so I'm just wondering. But prices are up and it's a different unit too, so not me personally, but. That was a Pelican that we bought, it could be. All right, I mean, you already did your homework on that, Mike, I'm sure.
Yeah, like I will confirm though with Tom Ferry, I'm texting him right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably right. It's nice when it's listed like the one above it, you know, where it says number 2 of 7 years, so you kind of know.
Yes.
Yeah, it helps you a little bit. A lot of articles.
Yeah.
That's a lot of articles right there.
So Robert is down below the screen, but I can bring him back up for viewing pleasure.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think, so and I want to speak for the entire, for the entire capital committee. But what, the committee, we wanted to identify, the issues, and the projects, the priorities, that we recommend for funding, like in fiscal year, so 2023. So that would take us, through the annual town meeting, but also, through a potential special town meeting as well. So we could plan and predict now. So it was anticipated that, I mean, obviously based on the priorities, and based just, like even just on our available free cash at the time, you know, that we knew we couldn't fund everything at once, but wanted, like we want to have a real capital plan, and we want to, like, and we at least want to make the recommendations and then, like open it up for a broader funding discussion, like with the FinCom and the selectmen as well.
The capital plan in the score section, the numbers in parentheses, is that a ranking?
I'm sorry, where are you looking?
It was in the attachment that Karen emailed out today.
Hang on, I gotta go to that.
Yes, it is a ranking.
Ranking. Oh.
35 is the highest number.
Okay. Right, so yeah, so that's the number 1 priority, and then two is DES, DMS.
Yes, one of the things we realized, because this is our first time out of the gate, that, you know, like we started with a scoring system, understanding the real, you know, the real reality, that would have to be updated, like as we went through a full ranking cycle, and now we know based on what, like, I mean, especially how a few of those things, were ranked, that we might want to tweak our scoring system as we move forward as well.
You might have said this while I was flipping through the highways, looking for 2 trucks.
Yes, they are. The F-750, listed for a cost of $170,000. That is, it's a 2004, but it's in really, really sad shape. The chassis is actually almost falling out under it.
Is line 30 blank because we're not sure what we're doing, or?
The, so there is a process ongoing there. But that funding would not be that funding would not be requested by town meeting. Any funding there would not be requested by town meeting.
Besides just verifying it's lease payment number 3 of 3, any other questions on?
The highway superintendent did text me back and confirm that.
Lease 3 of 3, okay. Is on the preliminary.
All set on that one this year?
Yes.
Okay, good.
After that drops off.
Good.
Are there any other questions on the preliminary look at the warrant articles?
No.
Go ahead.
What's the guardrail replacement on Williams Street? Where, is that?
Williams and Old Williams.
Oh, okay.
And there's an issue there where there is not sufficient guardrail protection at Old Williams and Williams.
Okay.
That's identified by the highway superintendent.
Okay.
Based on the public safety need.
Covered anything you want to add on this?
No. Yeah, not for me. I'm pretty familiar with all of them.
Okay, so we'll have further discussion on this actually as we get into making our recommendations and.
Okay.
And Mr. Muller mentioned planning board potential issues. At the last site visit we had at Brook Street Solar, we've got issues out there, a number of them I won't go into. But Mr. Hafez, who is the contact person that I have with Grasshopper in Canada, they were on site. And we again reviewed the issues, and he said to me, they had their attorney on site. She's been coming to the last couple. She said to me, we are going to file a suit against the town to protect our rights. Will they do it? Yes, I think they will. Will it go very far? It will depend on whether or not we get compliance from them to proceed. But at this point in time, I just want you to know, when you're thinking about the reserve fund, the last couple of site visits, they've had their attorney there. And he did say that to me, so it's public information. You were at that meeting, all right? So I don't think it's an idle threat. I have no idea if we're talking money, but he said we're going to file to protect our rights, so you need to know that.
We've got a request for transfer on the reserve fund.
Good timing, thank you.
Sun's going down.
Sun's going down, I have to go start a generator. So, hello, everyone. James Aguirre, Building Commissioner, Facilities Director. So I have before you a very modest request in order to demolish the 2 structures that we have on the slate right now. I want to commend Administrator Mullen and Karen Brady. We had 8 companies interested in demolishing 2 buildings in Little Old Dayton, which is by far been the most I've ever seen. We had prices range from a little over $30,000 to almost $90,000. So the low bidder came in at, I think, right around $31,000. I have 26 and change in my account. $6,000 will get me to cover the cost of those 2 contracts and to cover the cost of the police detail that I'll need, and maybe just give me $500 or $600 in case I have a board up to do before the end of the fiscal year. So I'm just looking to get by, just looking for enough money to get through these 2 demos and get me to June 30th.
What's the total request?
6,000. 6,000 from the reserve, so it would leave 36,000 in the reserve.
Yeah, we did very well with these two demos,
Yeah.
so, very well.
Have they completed that?
No, this is step one, and then if you're in the affirmative, I'll take it to the selectmen next week, and then we'll award the contracts, and then the buildings will come down.
45 days, I think you said?
Yes, yeah, so they'll be down pretty quickly.
I do want to credit the procurement officer helping move this forward. Just kidding, that was a joke.
I already gave you accolades.
Looking for extra.
Called self-gratification.
Any questions on that? No. Have any questions?
I do not.
Robert or Catherine?
Motion to move $6,000 from the reserve fund for the demolition of the two properties.
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Where they're on, do I need to announce their?
Yeah, they should do a roll call.
Robert, your vote?
I'm in aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for the support. Thank you.
To the chairman sign.
Would you mind, because I have to be
Yeah.
on my way out. Normally, I wouldn't interrupt the meeting, but actually, if you don't mind, just you can give that to Mike.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Jim. Any other questions? On before I get to moving for a motion to adjourn, I wanted to make sure and listen to the public input from last week, from the last meeting, and specifically ask the person online with just the Dayton as the code if they have any public input. Say no. Any other public input here? No. That, we'll take a motion from the finance.
To adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Board of Selectmen.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
Motion made in second. Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.